everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If you don't know me, my name is Sarah, and in today's video we are going to be crocheting some axolotls together. This guy is entirely no-sew. The only thing we have to do is tuck in all of the ends, which is a little bit tedious but not hard at all. I have a really nice way of tucking them in so there's no knots or anything shown. Everything looks nice and clean. If you are a beginner crocheting this pattern, I'd say use a yarn that you can clearly see the stitches with. Don't use a yarn where you have a hard time seeing the stitches until you learn how to do the gills. The gills are the hard part, so keep that in mind. For today's tutorial, I'll be using the same yarn here. So this is a size 6 Chenille yarn. I am using Chenille Home Slim and Sweet Snuggles Lite. They're both interchangeable. I'm using some pink and some blue for today's pattern. This is a double-stranded size 4 velvet. This is how this one turned out. You can really make this pattern in any size yarn as long as you use the right crochet hook for that yarn. This is skinny Chenille, so a size 4 yarn, and these guys absolutely turned out adorable. I think these ones are my favorite. We have these guys here, so if you ever want to make it a different yarn, you can do that. Just make sure that you use the correct hook to go with your yarn. Today I will be using the size 6 Chenille yarn, and you need 2 colors, one for the body and one for the extra details. I'm using a 5.5mm hook for this yarn. You can use any hook that works best for you. If you use any hook in particular for the size 6 Chenille yarn or whatever yarn you end up using, you also need a pair of scissors. You want a stitch marker if you use them, and then a sewing needle for tucking in all the ends when we're finished. So I recommend using plastic for the Chenille yarn so that it doesn't fall apart as much. If you use metal, it'll fall apart a lot faster. And then you also need safety eyes if you're using. So if you don't like using safety eyes, I'll have an embroidered eye tutorial linked in the description for you, so you can check that out. Otherwise, use safety eyes if you'd like. I use I believe these are 20mm, but they'll be up on the screen for whatever size they are. Now we are going to begin with the body of the axolotl. When I use Chenille yarn, I use some acrylic yarn to start my magic ring. If you don't know how to do this, I'll have the tips and tricks for Chenille yarn linked in the description for you to check out. It will show you how to use the acrylic yarn method for the magic ring. And a quick disclaimer before we get into it. This tutorial is for intermediate crocheters. It's not to say beginners can't crochet this pattern. Just note that I do not slow down. I don't explain certain stitches. You need to have a basic understanding of how to make plushies, how to crochet in the round and stuff like that. I'll have a beginner tutorial for a refresher if you need to refresh anything before we continue on with the pattern. If you are interested in the written pattern, you can go ahead and check out the description. I have a PDF pattern for these and the Ribbler pattern. So if you want the written pattern, it's got step-by-step photos and written instructions that are a little bit more in-depth than what I put on the screen. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and check it out, and let's get back to crocheting. Other than that, I think we're about set to go. We're going to begin with round 1 of the head, which is using the chain 2 method or the magic ring, whichever method works for you. And you're going to crochet 6 single crochets into whichever method you use. Now we're going to move on to round 2, which is an increase in each stitch around. Now we are going to move on to round 3, which is an increase and then a single crochet, and you're going to do that all the way around. And if you'd like to place your stitch marker, I recommend placing it in the last stitch of each round if you want to use it. we're going to move on to round 4, where we are going to increase and single crochet 2. And that's going to do, you're going to repeat that all the way around for a total of 6 times. Now we're going to crochet round 5, where we are going to increase and single crochet 3, and you're going to repeat that all the way around. Now we are going to secure our center tail here. Since I'm using the acrylic method, I will just be tying all of these ends together. If you are using a different method where you only have one strand to tie, just tie it with your needle, create a couple of knot loops and pull the tail through. I really recommend doing this whether you use the chain 2 method or the magic ring, because it will keep anybody from getting in there and opening that back up, and it'll keep it together for a lot longer. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you can go ahead and check out another tutorial. I have it linked up here, and I'll show you how to do that in that tutorial. Now we're going to move on to our single crochet round. So for the next 4 rounds, we're going to single crochet in each stitch. Here we are at the end of our single crochet rounds. This is similar to what it should look like. We're going to move on to our decrease round. So this is going to be round 10. We're going to decrease and single crochet 3. You're going to repeat that all the way around. We're going to do round 11, which is a decrease and then single crochet 2 all the way around. For round 12, we are going to decrease and then single crochet, and we're going to repeat that all the way around. The reason we continue decreasing is that we have to place our first bobble round down before we can insert our safety eyes. So this can be a pretty tight squeeze, but it keeps the eyes aligned, and that's what matters. Okay, for the next round, we are going to increase and then single crochet, and you're going to repeat that 6 times or all the way around. Now we are on to our first bobble round. This is round 14, and we are going to single crochet 5, then we'll bobble, single crochet 5, bobble, and then single crochet 6. So the bobble actually changed the size for the bobbles depending on the yarn type I use. For these guys, I'll do 5 incomplete double crochets, and for the skinny chenille, I'll do 6. It's also a lot harder of a squeeze when you're working with the chenille yarn versus the skinny chenille. So single crochet 5, and then you're going to bobble. I will do 5 incomplete double crochets. And while you are yarning over and pulling through all the loops, make sure to push that bobble out so it stays nice and clean. And then you're going to single crochet 5 again. And you're going to bobble again. Whatever bobble double crochet count you end up with, just keep it consistent through the whole pattern and you'll be fine. It really doesn't matter too much how many, as long as you can tell that those are little stubby legs on your axolotl. And then once you finish that bobble, you're going to single crochet in the last stitches. There should be 6 stitches remaining. So now we are going to insert our safety eyes. If you're using them, I insert them between the last 2 single crochet rounds. What I usually do is I'll just place the eye, and you want the legs to kind of line up, but the eye to be a little bit further on the inside, and then do the same on the other side. And then you just check and see if they are balanced. Usually you'll want to have about 5 single crochets between the eyes. Just like that. And this is pretty even. So now we're going to put the backs on these. It's honestly not too bad of a squeeze. Getting these in, the hole isn't too small. Even on the skinny Chenille, it's fairly easy to put the backs on. So now we are going to stuff the head at this point. So now that the safety eyes are in, if you're embroidering eyes, I'd recommend doing it when you're finished, just so you can get those eyes on and keep them even and everything. Probably do the eyes before you do the gills though. That way you have a place to base where your gills are gonna go. It's a little bit easier than trying to do it around the legs. Trying to line it up with the legs, I mean. When you stuff, make sure you use your hand and kind of round out where the stuffing goes. I also like to break up the stuffing when I stuff so that there's no hard lumps or anything. And I also make sure to stuff around the eyes. And then when you stuff, make sure you get under the neck area. You want this to be pretty firm. We are going to tuck some tails into this later, but you don't want the head to be too squishy. Okay, this should be about good. You see it's nice and round. There's no lumps or anything. And now we are going to single crochet for the next 3 rounds. We're going to single crochet in each stitch around. If you hear the pitiful cry of Buddy, that is him torturing me, not the other way around. He is trying to steal my desk chair, literally right out from under me. Now we're going to crochet round 18, which is our second set of baubles. So we're going to give him some legs, some more legs. We're going to begin this round, we're going to single crochet 6, and then bauble, single crochet 4, bauble, and then single crochet 6. Again, keep your bauble consistent. Whatever count you did for the first set, use the same here. And then single crochet 4. bobble again. Okay, and then single crochet in the next 6 stitches and you'll be done with this round. And we're going to begin our decrease rounds. For the next round, we are going to decrease and single crochet 4, and we're going to repeat that 3 times. Once you finish with that decrease round, we're going to begin stuffing the body, and what I want you to do is stuff through the remaining rounds as needed. So stuff now as best you can. Don't overstuff it to the point where you're grabbing the stuffing while trying to crochet. You still have plenty of opportunity to stuff during the next few rounds, and then just stuff as you need. Depending on the yarn size and everything, you might need to stuff after each of the next few rounds or every 2 rounds, just whatever you need to do. And now we're going to continue our decrease rounds. You're going to decrease and single crochet 3. For the next round, you're going to decrease and single crochet 2, and you repeat that 3 times. And I'm going to stuff some more after this round. Okay, and then for the next round, you're going to decrease and single crochet 1, and you're going to take your stitch count down to 6. So if you need to stuff during this round, and for our final round, we're going to be single crocheting in each stitch around, so stuff as needed. It might be a little bit harder to get in there once you get that single crochet round on, especially if you're using the skinny chenille or the velvet. But if you have any issues, you can use a stuffing stick or a pair of scissors. That's what I like to do when stuffing such small spaces. And then again, final round, single crochet in each stitch around, and then when we're finished, we're going to fasten off. And you just need to tail a yarn end long enough to close up the hole and tuck it in. So slip stitch, chain 1, and fasten off. And now finish stuffing if you can. Like I said, I'll use a pair of scissors and stuff it, especially if you're using any smaller yarn types. And now, once you are finished stuffing, we're going to close up this hole and tuck this tail right into the body. So like I said, I use plastic needles because the metal needles will cause the chenille yarn to fall apart. And I'm just going to collect all the front loops of the loose stitches. Including that slip stitch. And then close it up. Don't pull too hard because you don't want to snap your yarn. I've had a bad habit of snapping my yarn recently. And then you can just weave this tail in. I like to go back and forth several times and then just tuck the rest in with my scissors so I don't have any extra end yarn bits lying around. Just take my scissors, tuck it in. And just like so. Then I like to give them a little massage because sometimes the stuffing can get pushed away from the tip of the tail, especially when you're tucking in that end. And there we have our body complete. We're going to move on to the fin first, and then we'll do the gills second. So you're going to create a slip knot onto your hook, just a basic knot will do. And you want to leave a tail long enough to tuck into the body. I like to leave it a little bit longer so that I can really weave it in there and not have to worry about trying to finagle the needle. So you're going to take your body and you're going to flip it upside down. And we're going to work from this way around to this way. So I like to just eyeball this for the most part, but you're going to count this single crochet round. We have our bobble round, our single crochet round, and this is where we will begin our fin. And we're going to single crochet, single crochet, single crochet. We're going to put 2 single crochets. We're going to make our little tip and then repeat that on the other side, but going the other way. So join your hook just by inserting it directly into that stitch. I like it to be just slightly on the outside of the bobble. If you put it too far back, it might have like a bump, and you don't want that bump. To the best of your ability, of course. And then you're going to single crochet, and then in the next stitch you're going to single crochet, and in the next stitch you're going to single crochet. Just like that. And then in the tip of the tail, you're going to increase or 2 single crochets into that stitch. Once you finish that increase, we are going to chain 2, and we're going to single crochet into that second chain from hook. I like to just get into that back hump and single crochet. And then on the other side of the tip, we're going to increase. Just like so, and this is about what it should look like. You might have a little gap. If you do, you can try and close it up a little bit more, maybe put the increases a little closer, but all in all, it's not the biggest deal. And then you're going to single crochet in the next 3 stitches. So I like to make sure it curves back towards the foot. Just like that. And then you want to make sure you're on the same round, which I am. And you're going to chain 1 and fasten off. And I've decided that we're going to tuck these tails in as we go, these yarn ends. But you can always tuck them in all at once later on. That's usually what I do, but for the sake of keeping both our sanities, we are going to tuck these in now. We're going to turn our piece around and we're going to work on the back side. And what we're going to do is we're going to thread our needle with one of the yarn ends. And you're going to come around the back of the stitch. So instead of coming around the front or anything, you're going to go right into the back, and you're just going to come out and do any spot on the back side. And you want to pull this tail tight enough that that chain 1 or your slip knot that you made goes in to the body, like that. And you're going to repeat the exact same thing on the other side. Go behind the stitch and out to where the other tail is, and pull until the knot sinks in to the body. You might have to do a little finagling to get it to go in, but once it's in, it looks so much cleaner than anything else I've tried personally. So that's where we're at. We're going to tie these 2 tails together. You want them to be tight enough that there's not any loose space, but you don't want too tight that you sink these 2 ends in too much, because you don't want to misshape the tail. It's not a horrible look, so if you do end up doing that, it's not a big deal. You're gonna weave this tail in, and I just go back and forth a few times, and then I'll tuck it in with my scissors. Here's what the fin looks like when you're finished with it. Nice and clean, everything is put where it's supposed to be and everything. So now we're going to move on to the gills. I always start with this gill first. We're just gonna base the direction off of you facing the doll. So this would be the right side of the head. We are going to create a slip knot just like we did for the tail. Leave a little length of yarn for weaving in. And then we're going to join our yarn to our head. So I like to join right here. This is between the first 2 decrease rounds. So I like to insert it right here, about 2 stitches away. I just eyeball this. I don't normally count, but it's about 2 stitches away from the eye. What I like to do is kind of do this circle so that the gills are a little bit around the eye instead of directly straight. You can see clearly on this side that we go around like a crescent moon. So we're gonna join our yarn about 2 stitches away from the eye and between the first 2 decrease rounds. I'll have the round count on the screen too if you would like to count from the top of the head. And you're going to join to this stitch by slip stitching. If I can get the yarn to go through. There we go. And you're going to chain 2. Now we're going to single crochet in that second chain from hook, and we're going to chain 2 again. Now this is the part where it can get a little complicated. We're going to be single crocheting through this single crochet, like the post part of it, so that loop of it, and we're going to just single crochet in that single loop. And then you're going to chain 2 again, and you're going to single crochet in that same stitch again, and this will create the wavy, boxy texture, just like so. And this is the exact same pattern for the entire thing, so you just need to learn how to do it, and you can repeat it over and over. There's no tricks or anything. So now you're going to chain 2 once more and single crochet back into that original chain that you single crocheted the first time in. And then you're going to go directly into the next stitch of the body, and you're going to slip stitch through there. Just like so. Now the only thing that's different between each gill is where we place the final slip stitch back into the body. So your center gill we skip around when we slip stitch, but everyone else we just slip stitch right next to each other, and I'll show you what I mean in just a second because we're going to begin the middle gill. So what you're going to do is you're going to chain 2 again. You're going to single crochet in that second chain from hook. I like to do that back hump. You're going to chain 2 again, and just like we did, we're going to single crochet into the front post of the other single crochet. I'm not quite sure what the technical word is for this, but we'll just call it the post for now. And then you're going to chain 2 once again and single crochet in that same stitch we just single crocheted in, so that front post of that single crochet. Then we're going to chain 2, single crochet in that original chain, and then slip stitch into the body. So we're going to be skipping this round here, the unworked round, and going right into the next round and slip stitch. While you're doing all of this, you kind of want to make sure that your gills are going a nice round angle around the eye. You want to make sure you're not too far away from the eye or anything. If you need to, you can tear it out. I know it's not the best feeling in the world, but usually your first, second try, you'd need a couple of tries to get it right. So our final gill, chain 2, single crochet in that first chain, or second chain, sorry. And then we're going to chain 2 again, single crochet in that front post of that single crochet, chain 2, single crochet in that same single crochet stitch, and then chain 2 again, and finally single crochet back into that original chain stitch. And now we're going to slip stitch into the body, and this is where I kind of curve more inward again, this final stitch here. So I'm going to go over here and slip stitch, chain 1 and fasten off, and this is what your gills should about look like. Looking really good. I was actually really torn on this color, so I'm glad this is looking nice. What you're going to do is you're going to chain 1 and fasten off with the tail long enough to weave in. I like to keep the front side of the gills facing out, so when you start the other side you have to start from the top instead of from the bottom going up. So I'll show you how to do that in just a second, but first we're going to tuck in the tails on this, tuck in the ends on these gills so that we don't have to worry about it getting in our way, at least while I'm trying to show you stuff. So take any of the tails at the ends of the gills and you're going to bring your yarn over to about the center stitch of where the gills sit, and we're gonna do the same thing what we did with the tail where we pulled it behind the single crochet or the stitch. And then I like to grab one of these loops, doesn't really matter which one, just so that I can tie a really nice and secure knot with both these ends. So now we're going to take the other end, go through behind the stitch and pop out through one of the spaces for the body. Pull it tight enough to tuck that knot in, and then we're going to tie these two tails together. As you can see, there is the loop that I picked up between these two knots. So this knot will be nice and secure. It's not just free floating, but it's attached to something. Now we can tuck both these tails in together. You can tuck them in separately, whatever you want to do. Just weave them in and then trim them, tuck them in, whatever you want to do. And now we can move on to the final side and then we will be finished. Trace where your last slip stitch ended up. So this would be this round here, and that's where you're going to slip stitch on the other side, and this is where we're going to put our first slip stitch. Again, just about 2 stitches away from the eyes. It doesn't need to be perfect. Just try and keep it similar on both sides. Now you're going to chain 2, and we're going to repeat everything we did over here on this side, basically exactly the same way. So chain 2, single crochet in that second chain 2 again, single crochet in that post of that single crochet, chain 2, single crochet in that same stitch again, chain 2, and single crochet in that original chain we made. And then you're just going to slip stitch in the next stitch. We're not going to skip around just yet. That's for the middle. So this is about where the gill should sit. Usually you want to push the middle slip stitches, so the 2 middle slip stitches, to be a little bit further back from the eye. So this one's a little further forward and this one's a little further backward. Now we're going to make our center gill, chain 2, single crochet in that second chain, chain 2, single crochet in that front post of the single crochet, chain 2, single crochet again, chain 2, and single crochet in that chain. And now for the middle gill, we're going to skip a whole round. So this is the unworked round. Focus. This is the unworked round. We're going to skip it and we're going to go right into the next stitch and slip stitch. Now we're going to finish the final gill just like all the other ones. You're going to chain 2. You're going to single crochet in that second chain from hook, chain 2, single crochet in that front post of that single crochet, chain 2, single crochet in that same front post, chain 2, and single crochet in that chain. And then finally slip stitch in the next round, chain 1, and fasten off. And there we go. Now we just have to tuck in those tails and we are done. So I realize when I say tuck in those tails, it's kind of confusing. So I'm sorry about that. I'm trying to get better at saying ends. If you guys have a better word for the loose ends of the yarn when you're finished, let me know in the comments because I will start using it. So just the same as we did with the tail, you're going to bring the yarn behind the stitch, and then I will collect one of these loops so that I can have a secure knot when I tie these two tails together. And I'm just scooch this over one more stitch. Maybe. There we go. Now we're going to tie these two together and weave them in. Again, don't tie them too tight because you don't want to sink the head in. Now you're going to weave these tails in, back and forth a few times. Alrighty, once you have finished tucking in all of those tails, that means you're done and your axolotl is finished. Look at how cute. If you used any special color combos, let me know in the comments because I really think you can make this pattern in so many different colors. And, you know, natural colors, crazy colors. So let me know what colors you decided on in the comments. And if you completed this, let me know. I know that the gills can be a little difficult, so hopefully you guys managed to figure it out. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I will hopefully see you in my next video, which will be another market vlog because we're prepping for a very large festival in October. So we've got a lot of work to do up to that point. So if you're interested in any of that behind the scenes, kind of just hang out with me stuff, just subscribe. I hope you have made your new favorite axolotl, and I will see you later. Bye!